The Super Bowl is coming up, and the Public Religion Research Institute wanted to do a poll to see how many Americans believe that God has some influence in the outcome of the game. Well, here's what they found. About 53% of Americans believe God rewards athletes who have faith with good health and success. That is banana. So more than half of Americans believe that God plays some role in the game. Now let's break it down by religion.
Hold on. When I played high school football, we took a knee before the game, and it was no big deal, right? And we prayed for people's health. Now, I didn't believe it, but okay, right? And so that's somewhat benign. But you have to understand the opposite of that. So does that mean that if somebody busts their knee, that, wow, God wasn't looking out for them?
Maybe he was a naughty boy, and God's like, hey, you know what? Sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, but it's about to get worse.
It is about to get worse. I want to break it down by specific religion. So if you look at minority Christians, about 40% of them believe that religion plays some role in the outcome of the game. And there's also 38% of white evangelical Protestants that feel that way, 29% of Catholics, and 19% of white mainline Protestants.
So that's awesome, and of course, you know, people who are more evangelical or fundamentalists are more likely to believe God does everything. And now, by the way, those numbers are not for just health. Those numbers are for who wins the game.
Exactly.
That's the outcome of the game.
Yes.
So 40% of white evangelical Protestants believe that God controls whether the Broncos or the Seahawks are going to win the game.
Can we think about that for a second? So I know that God is supposed to be, you know, this incredible power that can manipulate several different things at the same time, right? But to think that God would waste his time figuring out who should win the game, and it's the Seahawks and the 49. No, it's not. The Seahawks and
the Broncos.
Broncos.
Nice.
Yes.
Almost there. Okay.
Anyway, to think that God would spend his time, you know, messing with that scenario is so ridiculous.
No. So look, so that gets into a couple of interesting things. First of all, to be fair, God has all the time in the world.
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's all powerful, and he's outside of the concept of time anyway, and he can do everything at the same time.
And
now,
he's really concerned with American football.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Like he's got problems in the Andromeda galaxy, okay, but first he's got to figure out who's going to win the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
Okay. But think about the irrationality of that. That so is it that if the Broncos pray harder, but then you've got all of Denver praying, presumably, you've got a lot of people praying, and then you have the people in Seattle. Do they really think it's a prayer off?
They're not praying hard enough. That's the problem.
I mean, do you really think that? Because, okay, let's say that God really likes Peyton Manning. I don't know why he would, but let's say that, okay? Does that mean he doesn't like the Seahawks? Is that how he decides the game? Not on who's a better athlete and who worked harder or whatever, but he's like, I think Noshan Marino is the most religious one. I will award the game to the Broncos. How do you believe that? How can you believe that? It's amazing to me. But there's one more amazing fact. The one religious group you didn't put in there. This might be the most amazing of all. 12% of religiously unaffiliated Americans believe God determines the outcome of the game.
That just doesn't make sense.
I mean, wait.
Maybe they're just spiritual. They believe in God, but they don't believe in a particular organized religion.
Maybe
that's a possibility.
Maybe they think the Flying Spaghetti Monster's noodly appendages will tip a ball one way or another.
Maybe.
No, look, I get it. They're not atheists and agnostics. They're just religiously unaffiliated, and I guess they're spiritual. So they think the spirits will like, oh, you bobbled the pun.
So the numbers are fascinating based on which region of the country you live in. So let's take a quick look at that. So of those who agree that God does play a role in the outcome of the sporting event, 36% of Americans who live in the South feel that way. So that's not surprising. 28% of Americans who live in the Midwest, 20% of Americans who live in the Northeast, and thankfully 15% of Americans who live in the wild, wild West.
Look, am I wrong to be proud that I'm in the region that is by far the most rational? South, I love you, brothers. We got a lot of viewers in the South, and I feel for you. Okay, but apparently they think all that practicing by whether it's Richard Sherman or Russell Wilson or Peyton Manning, irrelevant. Okay, if they had just spent their time doing more prayers, they would have been in better shape.